very quickly by saying that it is not the most exciting product that you are ever going to see a demo for. No flashy graphics, no animations, but it has definitely become one of the most essential solutions for our customers of all sizes, big and small companies, are looking to manage their data in a more organized, more secure way than they ever have been, because the data is growing exponentially and people need to find a solution. So if you are a company that has maybe one of these objectives of having an organized environment, an organized way of having your data secure and placed, this would be a good solution. If one of your objectives is to speed up searches for data in your system, this would be a good solution. If you want to have an easier way of reusing your files that exist, you'll see how that works. Essentially, PDM is a great way to share the right information with the right people at the right time. And this is critical for companies, so that the manufacturing floor or your manufacturing company doesn't have the wrong version, has the right information only when it's been approved by people who are allowed to approve things to go to manufacturing. So you're going to see this in the presentation. It also allows companies to reach objectives of automation in speeding up things, clerical tasks that your drawing people or your engineers may be responsible for on a daily basis. PDM can take care of those for you, so that your engineers or your designers can go back to what they actually should be doing, which is designing. So we take away some of those clerical tasks and automate them for you, so that you speed up your process. So in general, you're going to see a lot of things that save time. It may not be obvious right away, but they do save time. We have statistics that show that from companies who have implemented PDM, and we'd be happy to talk about that in greater length. But that's it for me for now. I will come back at the end to wrap this up. I will pass this over to Michel Cloutier. He's the Territory Technical Manager, also for Eastern Canada. He's been with SOLIDWORKS for 12 years, has a lot of experience with the tools, and has seen how they have evolved through the years. And he's going to give you an overview today. We could go on for a long time showing you different things, but he's going to give you an overview to give you a flavor of what PDM does and and how it could possibly help your company. And I will come back after. So over to you, Michel.
All right. Well, thank you, Joelle, and thank you everyone for logging in this morning for this session. Before I actually jump into the software and kind of show you what PDM is, what it does, I just want to warn people, if you have any questions, there's a little question box you can fill in and put some questions in there. That's also why I put my email address, both Joelle and my email address. So if you have questions after the seminar, feel free to just throw those out to us, and we'll do our best to give you some good answers for that. So, like Joelle said, we're here to talk about PDM today, and really I want to show 4 things. So my presentation is going to be broken down into 4 areas, let's say. First, I want to talk about what it's like to be working in PDM Professional. We're going to talk about the search. One of the features people love the most about PDM is how quick you find stuff. So I do want to talk about search. We're going to talk about the approval process, and I'm going to kind of expand more on that when I get there, and also talk about beyond engineering, because PDM is not just for engineering. It can expand through the enterprise if you wanted to. So let's start at the beginning, and let's start with talking about what it's like to work inside of PDM. So, when we talk to SOLIDWORKS users, their concern is, I don't want to have something that's going to burden me even more. So PDM is actually a tool designed to ease your productivity, to make it more productive. So you'll see the user interface a little bit, how to work with PDM, what it does. And I'm going to be using a little data set here. And I'm going to start within SOLIDWORks because most of the SOLIDWORks users, that's where they spend the time is inside of SOLIDWORks. So inside of SOLIDWORks, I'm going to show you how PDM can actually benefit. So let's switch over to SOLIDWORks right now. And here's my little assembly I'm going to be using. And in this assembly, I want to do a couple of changes. So if we look a little bit into it, I want to open this part here, which is the arm. And within SOLIDWORks, I just want to go ahead and maybe change the height of this. So I'm going to type in 20. And as soon as I do that, actually PDM warns me that, hey, this file is not checked out, meaning you don't have read and write access to this file right now. And maybe you don't want to do these changes. So PDM is also a safeguard. It's going to prevent you from doing stupid things, changing files that are not supposed to be changed. So it's just a warning at this point. And now how do I get over that warning? Well, PDM is fully integrated inside of SOLIDWORks. So over here, I got information about this file. So you can see some of the information here. And when you're about to change something, the first question is, okay, what is that going to impact? Where am I using this part? Maybe I'm using this part in another assembly or multiple assemblies. So I have to revision everything. Well, PDM brings you that information right in front of you. Very easily, I can see where this is used. So I can see that the arm is used in this subassembly, and even in these drawings, these documents. And you'll notice that it's also referenced by non-CAD data. So within PDM, you can actually reference documents like Word documents, maybe a spec sheet, for example. So you can reference these in between other documents. So now I have a really clear understanding that, this part is actually only used at that one single project that we can see in the column here. So if I do a change, it's not going to affect anything else. So I'm going to decide to actually do that change. So in order to do that, I'll simply do a checkout, which is basically taking ownership of this file. And when I'm done doing my change, I can check back in and say what I've done. So I'm going to say I thicken the arm for more strength, and say I want to check this in. Now, one thing that PDM does behind the scenes is that it actually tracks all the versions. So anytime you do a change to a file, it actually tracks the history of that. So right from here, I can actually go back in time and look at what it used to be like. So for example, if I look at my version 1, you'll notice that right over here, I have a angle of 95 degrees. Well, if I take the exact same part and I go to version 2, and you see some comments here that were added by the user at that time, why they made the change, if I look back at this example now, you'll notice that that same angle here has been opened up to 120 degrees. So, someone did a change there to accommodate for a bigger, bigger range of motion. And then there's my change. So I can always go back to my latest version, which is the version I just changed right now. So this is great because PDM is tracking everything that you're doing. Now, if I go back to the assembly level, now I want to also implement that change at the assembly level. So over here, I want to do, again, a checkout because I want to save these changes. And what's great about that is that at the assembly level, you can actually pick and choose what you'll be working on. If you don't have a PDM system, by default, when you open the assembly, everything's locked up for any other users. So here, if I know I'm simply going to be working on the top-level assembly and the drawing that goes along with that, someone else could be working on some of the other files, and you'll also notice that some of the files don't have any checkout rights, and that may mean that basically they're in production right now. I cannot change something that's in production without let's say going through a change order or change notice. So very quickly, I can check this out. If I'm allowed to check it out, I can check it out and do some changes and save these changes to my file right over here. So again, when I talk about PDM, it's all, PDM is a tool that, we want it to be easy to use. That's why it's integrated right inside of SOLIDWORKS. You don't have to, hunt for things. It's very clear to where to get them, but also a tool to prevent bad things from happening. I hear it, quite often, we manufacture the parts, we didn't manufacture the good revision, right? So things like that, that's the whole idea with PDM, prevent you to change things that are not supposed to change, or, if you're not allowed to change something in production, well, you can't. So depending on your rights, so right now I'm logged in as myself, and I have basically the role of an engineer. I can do so much things, but if I was a manager, maybe I could do something different, right? So that's how it is just to be working inside of PDM with SOLIDWORKS, of course. Now, the second topic I want to talk about is the powerful search. Again, the architecture of PDM allows you to search not only on file name, but on so many other things. So in this example here, I'm going to follow on with my changes in my assembly. I want to replace a pin, a shear pin, by another type of pin that's somewhere in my system, and I don't know where it is. So let's go ahead and see how we could do that with SOLIDWORKS and, of course, PDM. So heading back to SOLIDWORKS right now, the pin I want to replace is actually this one here. So I'm going to delete it, say yes to that. And you'll notice this is a mirrored component, so that's why the other one deleted on the other arm. And I want to replace it with another pin. So back to my PDM tab here, I can simply go ahead and use the search tool built in with the PDM system. And I'm going to type in pin. So see how that was quick? Actually, if it was actually too quick to get a number, it actually found 17 files in 0 seconds. So that's how quick the architecture is. But as you look through the results, 17 different results, there's just too much information. I need to hone in the type of component. And that's where PDM is great at. I can say, well, I want to search pin, but I want to search pin as a SOLIDWORKS part, and I want to search pin that has material 4340. So now I'm putting more search criteria to hone in and find exactly what I'm looking for. Now I got two examples here. Again, the kind of neat things, you got a full preview down the bottom here. What's great about the preview is that this is just not just a static 2D preview. This is actually a full 3D preview. And oh, by the way, you can actually go ahead and measure on this preview. So I'm looking for a pin, diameter 21, kind of seems okay, length 35, oh, I think that's going to work fine. So I don't even need to open the part to take measurements on it. I can just measure over here just to see if it's going to work in my assembly. Now that I found the right document, I could look at some of the information about this file, which is captured in what we call the data card. I can also see where it's used, for example. So right now it's not being used anywhere. But let's say I want to use this part in my assembly. Well, this is a fully integrated Windows system. So I can simply drag and drop from one window to the next one, snap it in place. I'm going to simply close my search window for now. I don't need it. And I'm simply going to update real quick my mirror. So I got my pin on the other side as well. So very quickly I've done this change, but now using the search, the powerful search, but now I need to update the drawing. And maybe I don't know where the drawing is. Where is it? It's somewhere in my system, I know. But again, using PDM, I can simply say, okay, This assembly, where's it used? So obviously it's used in my drawing. From here, right-click, open. I don't even need to look where the file is. PDM is going to tell me and open it and show me where it is. So obviously here I need to update this drawing. So you see here the little balloon that went with the out of reference because I changed the pins. I'm going to reattach that and just do a quick cleanup. So obviously I would probably need to change the explode view, but for now, let's just say that for now we're good. One thing I do want to do and point out, if I look in the title block, you'll notice that right now it's set to revision 0. Basically, there's no revision. It's the first draft of this drawing. And I want you to pay attention because something's going to happen later on that I want to highlight as well. So for now, this drawing is done, so I'm simply going to save it. And like I said, at this point, I'm kind of done doing my changes, so I'm going to check back in the drawing. It's going to automatically capture the assembly as well. Any other files that need to be checked in at the same time. And here I can simply say I changed the pins and updated drawing. And then I'm going to say I want to check this in. So now I'm done doing my changes. I'm kind of done working on this file. And just as a quick recap, again, the search tool, really powerful search tool, allows you to search not only on file name, but just look at my example. I search file name, I filtered that down to a SOLIDWORKS part, and then I further filtered that down to a part that was material 4340. Now, the search is so powerful, you could even index the content of a Word document or the content of a PDF file. So you could search for a word inside the Microsoft Word document or the PDF file. That's how strong the search could be. So obviously, with search, you just save a lot of time. You just really find what you need when you need it. Now, the next thing I want to discuss is the approval process. And before I show you anything, I want to talk about the approval process in general. So the system architecture understands where files need to go, depending on where they're at. And I'm going to show you the back-end architecture of my system. This is customizable. You really set it the way you want. But we have what we call a workflow. And basically, a workflow controls the documents through its design stages. Now, you can see this one is fairly expanded. There's a lot of information in there. Now, you could do something a lot simpler if you want to, or even complex. But if we just focus on the first 3 steps, the initial stages of this design. When I start something inside of SOLIDWORKS, it goes in work in progress. When I'm ready to send that for approval, then I'm going to submit it. It's going to become pending approval. And in my system right now, I have the process where at this stage, a designer would submit something for approval. That's where a manager or a team leader would actually go into the design, look at it, and verify it's okay for manufacturing. And then when it's okay for manufacturing, it would issue the revision and send out to the shop floor for manufacturing. So we're going to walk through this process. Like I said, right now, I'm logged in as myself. The file is in work in process. And I want to send it for approval to my manager. Again, this is just a scenario, and we can customize this, based on your needs. So let's see how that would work within PDM itself. So going back to SOLIDWORKS, now there's different ways you can send the documents for approval. I can do it right from here. So right from SOLIDWORKS, I could say, all right, I want to submit this for approval. So very easily, I can say, okay, this is submitted for approval. It's going to capture all the files that are linked together. Notice here there's actually an instruction that's a composer file that's for my work instructions. Now this, I don't need it approved right now. I just want to take care of the CAD documents. So I got my drawing, I got my assembly here, I got a couple other files. You'll notice that some of these files here says file in wrong state because they're already somewhere else. They're already approved. I don't need to approve them twice. So here I'm going to say a comment. So I'm going to say that I changed the assembly pins and thicken the arm. And on my comment, I simply say, please review. And I'm going to say OK to that. So what's great about this workflow is that, and going back over here, I want to point out that when the document is actually transitioning between these states, you can actually run different tasks on the background. So for example, here, the little pop-up you saw was actually the design checker that was asking me, hey, do you want to run a design check on my drawing to make sure that you have the right font, do a little spell check, maybe the right annotation type, the right layers. That's the type of things you can do. And so it goes ahead and do some things in the back end so I don't have to do it manually. So that's just an example, and we'll talk a bit more about other examples. So here, for this example, I'm simply going to say cancel. I don't want to run the design checker right now. I just want to submit it for approval. And now you can see that in my state here, it's now in the state called pending approval. Now to illustrate the full workflow, I'm actually going to close everything right now. I don't need that, and close this. And I'm going to log off as myself and log back in as a manager. So imagine that I've just been promoted from designer to engineering manager in a snap, in a second right there. So I'm logging in using a different login as a manager, and as I log in, I have access to all my notifications. And you see here actually a little bubble showed up. There's a new notification, and basically when I look at this notification, you'll notice what it is. So I have a file, sorry, that changed from work in progress to pending approval. That was done by Michelle on this date, and here are the files, and here are the comments of this. Now, what's great about this notification is that everything is hyperlinked. What that means is, if I just want to take a quick peek at the arm, I can just hit view, and it's going to open this in eDrawing in a full view, so I can take a look at it, and if I need to, well, yeah, I can measure on it, of course. So very quickly, I have access to that information. The other type of information you can have access to, so maybe I want to see what happened to this file, I can look at the history of the file. And like I said, very quickly, I got the full history of what happened, who touched this file, when they touched it, what they did with it. So all the information is here. So you see that Mark did some work this morning, and then Michelle did some other work this morning, date stamp, and comment of what happened to this file. So it's tracking everything in the back end. Now, if I need to simply open it up, I could simply, again, click on the hyperlink and open it up. But let me actually get back to PDM through the Windows Explorer and talk again back about the search. What's great about the search as well is that you can also do some search favorites. So as an engineering manager, I oftentimes have to look at documents pending approval. So instead of going through the full search, I can now simply search all documents pending approval in my vault. And very quickly, I have access to that. And I could have had access to that through my notification. You saw that with hyperlinks. But this is just another method when you just want to have a full view of all documents pending approval in one click. There you go. And here's my drawing. Again, I can right-click and say I want to view this file. So if you want to view it full screen, it doesn't require SOLIDWORKS. Everyone has access to that. And you can see it's Rev 0. It's my current drawing with the new pins. So let's just say for the moment right now, this file is okay. As a manager, I think it's great. let's go ahead and approve it. So from here, even from the search window, I could say, well, yes, I want to change state and approve it. And here, actually, I would have the choice. If there were a change to do, I could say change required and send it back up to Michel, to the designer. Or in this case, I'm going to say, no, I want to approve. That's a great design. And actually encourage Michel here. He did a great job this morning. So great work. And maybe put a little comment in there and say, okay. And as I okay this, notice that PDM is actually asking me for double validation. So it's asking me for my password again, just to make sure that I don't do something crazy again. So this is what we oftentimes call double validation. Now I click OK. Files are transitioning into that new approved state. You can see it right here. All the files are now been approved. And if I close this, I just want to leave my desktop open. You might notice something else is going to happen. So I'm going to leave, maybe a couple seconds, because when I talked about the workflow, you notice, the design checker came up when I send files through my approval state, and you can see the little, top right corner, top left corner, something's happening there. In my workflow, I also have something else scheduled or automated. So when something goes from pending approval to approve, it's actually saving this file as a PDF file. And maybe I need this file to be saved in another directory for manufacturing, for example. We can do that. Another example would be to export DWG. So this was just a highlight, and the task was actually performed on my computer. But if you have a high volume, you could also do that on a server. And now going back into my folder, you'll notice I got the new PDF files saved in the same directory. So these are just PDF files. And as a designer, I didn't have to do that manually. The system did it for me. Moreover, if I look at the drawing, something, I told you I wanted to highlight something. If I look back at the drawing, notice that the revision tile block has been updated to A automatically. And you might have noticed the little bubble coming up, and that's actually the confirmation that the documents have been approved, and also a confirmation that the PDF files were created and saved in that folder. So this is the type of automation that you can build in with PDM. Now, what other types of automation? You can do a number of things. So things we see fairly common, part numbers, serial part numbering. So the PDM system can take care of that for you. That's, again, an example. It's a feature. You turn it on, you turn it off if you need it or not. Creating project folders. So you start a new project. Typically, people will have the same subfolders repeated in all the projects. Maybe a folder for budget, a folder for 2D files, a folder for 3D models, a folder for drawings, whatnot. So you can create that structure automatically and even have files already in those folders, like a blank budget Excel spreadsheet or something similar. Email notification. So you saw the email notification right now in my system. I was actually using the internal notification system, but you could also use SMTP, regular SMTP email. So if you're a manager and you're on the road, well, you can have access to notifications on your phone. So this helps a lot as well. Another type of automation we can have, BOM export. Again, this is an example. There's many of them. Revision control, you saw that, the little revision updated automatically in the tile block, ECOs, ECN, PDF creation, printing, DWG export. These are all types of tasks that the PDM system can automate for you, so engineers and designers can be engineers and designers. They're not clerks. They're not paid to be clerks. So the system is your clerk. Now, the benefit of the workflow or the back end, the approval process is, yes, control document, but it's much more than that. It's automating all the things that people have to do in the back end, part of their work. Well, the system can take care of that now. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is beyond engineering. So, like I mentioned earlier on, PDM is a tool not only for the engineering department. It can expand elsewhere. A good example is manufacturing. Someone on the shop floor needs to print a drawing. Well, why would they bug you, if they can just print a drawing themselves? Same thing goes for purchasing. Someone at purchasing needs to get a bill of material because there might be some long lead items that they want to order ahead of time. Well, hey, they can have access to the system if you grant them access or not. So let's talk about that for a little while. So again, going back to PDM, and you might have noticed that earlier, PDM is built right inside of Windows Explorer. So it's basically file folders, just like Windows Explorer. So anyone that has knowledge of Windows can get, it is very quick. The ramp up is really quick. So when I go into my folder, that's my project folder. You see all my files. I already mentioned that earlier, full 3D preview. Even for a non-SOLIDWORKS user, you get the full 3D preview with measuring if you allow people or not. You'll notice also that you can have other types of documents. Here I got a Word document. That's my instruction manual. I also have a Composer document. We use Composer here internally to do all of the instructions, the images that you're going to actually put in your work instructions. So here's my Composer document. The other things too is that we also talked about the data card, information about the file. That's great. But let's just say I'm someone purchasing. I want to get a bill of material. Well, here it is. That's my bill of material. And notice this is the bill of material of the assembly. That means that you can extract a bill of material before making a drawing. So if you're doing something at an early stage and you just want to export a quick bill of material to order long lead items very quickly, someone in purchasing might be able to simply come in and grab the Excel spreadsheet and save that out. So now they can look at the Excel spreadsheet and they might start ordering even though you have not started doing any drawings yet. So very quick access to that information. The other thing too I like to highlight about the bill of material is that you can also compare versions of the bill of material. So let's just say that I did this change, we're in revision A, and I want to know what it looked or what did we order 2 weeks ago for something on a different version. Well, now I can use my PDM system to actually compare my revision A with an earlier version. So you'll notice, for example, that some files were added in green, some files were removed in red, and depending how back in time I go, obviously the comparison is going to be a bit different. And here you see that this is actually the pin that I removed earlier on, and there's a new pin up over here. That's the pin I added in the course of in the last 20, 30 minutes or so. So very quickly, we have access to all of this information, even though you might not be an engineer or someone from the engineering department. You can have access to all of this information, and if you need to print it, well, yes, you can definitely print it. So very right click and hit print if you need the print for the shop floor. So this is it also provides, with PDM, you can also provide access to people outside of engineering. Now, depending on who has access, you would give them different rights. They can do or cannot do things. They can see or cannot see things. And there's a whole, we could talk at length about, user rights and what people cannot do based on login, based on groups, user groups. But the PDM system can give access to those people, but it's going to be a safe access. You just allow them to do what they you want them to do. So in general, we talked about, the ease of use, how it can help prevent errors, just by warning you that you're not allowed to do things or not. Save time. The search tool is a great tool to do that, to save the time. Automate tasks. You saw, the workflow on the back end, how it can control document, and how you can, as documents transition from different states, you can launch stuff in the back end. Have a server maybe create the PDF, or like a station that's not working, it just starts working, creating those PDFs. So these are different options, definitely to think about. And then the access, not only for people in engineering, but for people outside of engineering. So that was my talk I wanted to have with you today. And if you're aware of the tools within PDM, within SOLIDWORKS, your question might be, okay, which one is right for me? Right now we have 2 PDM products available. We have PDM Standard, which is part of SOLIDWORKS Professional Premium, and then we have PDM Professional. That's a separate purchase. So a lot of questions is, a number of questions is, what's best for me? What do I need as a company, for my team, whatever? And so I'm going to actually do a little preview of that in 2 weeks' time from now. So today I stayed very general on purpose. I just wanted to talk about PDM in general, what the tool will do in general. But we have another session scheduled September 22nd. It's actually not 9 a.m. Sorry, it's actually the same time as this one, which is 11 a.m. So we have a follow-up session on September 22nd at 11. And in that session, we're going to talk about the top 7 features of PDM Professional. So in that session, I hope I'm going to be answering a lot of the earlier question, which one's right for me. Depending on what you want the tool to do, hopefully this is going to give you a good idea of what would be the best product for you, for your enterprise, for your team. So I invite you to sign in if you haven't already for September 22nd, and I hope I'll see you there. We're going to talk about the 7 features, or top 7 features people are mostly want to see, or why they get to PDM Professional. There's more than that, but I'm going to restrict myself to 7 for that. Hopefully, I'm sure it's going to still give you a really good overview of what the tool can do. So I think I'm going to let Joel wrap up. I do see a couple questions, so maybe I'm going to ask these questions. But Joel, you want to wrap up?
Sure. You want to do the questions in writing, or you want to bring them back up after?
Let me just read them real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question for the preview: can you show different configurations? Let me just, I might have to review that one. So, okay, the PDM viewer, everyone that has access to PDM has the 3D viewer enabled. Now, you could prevent someone from viewing 3D files if you wanted to, but the viewer's there with all the installs. So that was a question from Byron. So metadata for parts and assemblies transferred to drawings, yes. We're actually capturing the metadata when you're putting a SOLIDWORKS file into the vault. So again, to Christopher's point, you don't have to re-enter things twice. If you said description for a part, the description would follow through to the drawing. So yeah. So there's a few more questions in there. I'll just let you wrap up, Joel. I'll answer the other questions by email if that's all right, just for time's sake.
Absolutely, that's fine. Great. Thank you, Michel, for that great overview. Just remember, as you're seeing this, you saw this presentation, the way it's set up, the way the PDM is set up, the way the data cards are set up, is all for a demonstration. And as powerful as PDM is as a tool, it is just as flexible as a tool for your enterprise. So all of these things are configured individually for each company who decides to take advantage of this and make it their own. How many fields you want, what names you want to the fields, pull downs that you want with them. So everything is flexible going with this. Another point that I want to make before we wrap up is that generally data management implementations with companies have a stigma that they're cumbersome, they're large, they're long, they're complicated, and this is not the case with PDM. And I think it's very important to highlight because if you've implemented an ERP or a PLM system for your company, you may have gone through some pains there, had to hire people, had to pay extra, and it leaves normally a bad taste in people's mouths. Hopefully that's not the case for what you've gone through, but this is what we hear very often. PDM is not like that. Some companies are set up within 1 day. Some companies at the most are set up within 5 with training, with everything done, and everyone up and running. So it is quite a simple solution to implement, but a very powerful one to change how your company is going to move forward with data management. As you keep this in mind, Michelle did talk about the September 22nd seminar, where we will go into some more details of the features that come with PDM Pro. You also all have resellers that you can reach out to if you want something more personalized to you. If you're ready for that, then you can definitely do that, and they can address your objectives and see how PDM can fulfill those objectives in particular. But otherwise, hopefully we'll see you on the 22nd and get you some more details and take another step forward in your knowledge of data management with SOLIDWORKS PDM solutions. And with that, I wish you a great day, a great weekend, and we'll hopefully chat with you all later. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.